Yes, and in the Sears Roebuck Christmas catalog on page, it's on page 349. One of the newest games in the Sears Roebuck Christmas catalog is a game called the Dr Kildare game, which I kind of like. The Dr Kildare game. Do you remember, Ed, when kids had little games, that they'd sell for Christmas time, and almost all the games had to do with a sort of circular track, and there was a little pointer, and you'd spin the pointer, and the pointer would say 7, and then you would count off 7 squares on the track, and you had little lead cars, and you were going. They called it the big race. Stuff like that, and you'd have the red one, and your kid brother would have the yellow one, and the guy from next door would have the blue one, and and nobody wanted the green one because they bent the wheels over on it sideways, and you'd say, okay, all right, spin it, and then there would be, you'd hit one square, and it would say, crack up, go back to go. It says, you have cracked up your car, go back to go, and all the kids are... You remember when games are that simple? Well, now the newest game is the Dr. Kildare game, and the object is not to go around a circular track, but the object is that the one who diagnoses the mysterious, terrible ailment first wins. Believe it or not. So the kids, they shuffle out the cards, and one guy has terrible rash on the bottom of the foot. And now he has to, and then somebody else they deal out, another guy gets one, says, has badly coated tongue, has tendency to wheeze. His breath comes in short gasps. You are given not clues. You know how games used to have clues? You are given symptoms. Boy, are we getting morbid in our society, I'm telling you. Seriously, they call it Dr. Kildare. And the game, the object is to diagnose the case. Now, I kind of like that. And then in the summer, or rather it's in the Christmas catalog, I think page 410 sums it all up. Page 410... Well, actually, on page 376 is pretty good. They have a dollhouse with a fallout shelter, which is kind of good. I think that's kind of a fun thing. Little fun games. You keep little, that little bottled water in there and stuff like little shotguns are all in there for, for self-defense, things of that nature. And on page 410, it simply says, it's a Barbie world. Barbie is a doll. It's a Barbie world. I think that sums it all up. We're all living in a fun and games world. Has it ever occurred to you that the Russians are enjoying all the trouble that they're kicking up in the world? And yes, it's true. I'm sure they are. And I'm sure, even though everyone sits there solemnly nods their heads and so on, but I have known aunts just like that whose most wonderful moment was when they were screaming at all the family. Aunt Theresa. Now, I learned about the psychology of trouble in my family, my early beginnings there. And I really do, I believe that man enjoys trouble immensely. Now, there are two kinds of enjoyment of trouble. There is the enjoyment of the guy who's causing the trouble. Now, that's the most obvious kind of enjoyment. And then there is the person who is being troubled. Now, that's not a very obvious enjoyment, but yet it is still part of the same thing. It's a kind of masochism. Oh, yes. Oh, indeed. And I don't think many people in the world enjoy trouble more than Americans, and I think it's primarily because we've made it. We really have. We made it all the way up and down the line, physically. We certainly have the biggest material success anyone's ever had, and, everything is hunky-dory. You know the phrase, hunky-dory? Well, so you got to have something that bugs you. And we enjoy being bugged because if you'll notice that almost all of our dramas, I don't think there's anybody that's more hung on sad soap opera type drama than Americans, where you see nothing but misery and terrible, terrible deprivation and awful, awful chicanery going on all day long, all night long, and on almost every channel, constantly. So we obviously must enjoy trouble. Now, it's a vicarious trouble, but let's admit it, that up to this point, the Russian problem is all vicarious. They haven't really done anything to you. You haven't gotten shot yet. No, it's all vicarious. You're still buying a new Buick next year, Ed. It's all vicarious. All the problems with the Russians are vicarious because, on the one hand, we continue to go upwards and upwards. Our industry is getting bigger and bigger and everything else. And we're swinging more. The income is higher. Everything else is swinging. And the only thing about the Russian problem is that it is vicarious. It's like a hypothetical problem. I bet most people have never even met a Russian. I can guarantee you this. I would say at least 95% of Americans, probably much higher than that, have never met a genuine, 100% European practicing, card-toting, 1,000% communist, who's really, what he calls, this hypothetical thing. And hardly anybody's ever met one even. So it's all an abstraction. On the other hand, I wonder how many Russians have ever met an imperialistic, warmongering Cleveland industrialist, which is what they call it. I'm using their phrase. And they're afraid of that, you see. So it's a fascinating problem of two nations, both of them enjoying a gigantic hypothetical ailment. Where on the one hand the Russians are digging it. It's obvious that every time there's a slight lull in the storm, a charge is made in the UN. Get the thing going again. It's like somebody who likes to continually. Have you ever had the problem where you get a little sore in your mouth and you like to bite it, you like to make it hurt? You ever had that problem? Sure, I'm sure you're like that. And you can't keep your tongue away from it, and you just keep poking away at it. Well, I remember, as long as you talking about trouble, I had this Aunt Theresa who lived on two kinds of trouble. Her most happy moments were spent when she was screaming at the rest of the family. And on the other hand, she loved it when the family screamed at her, because that only confirmed her suspicions. She felt righteous when they were screaming at her. So no matter what you did, she enjoyed it. If she was screaming, you could see her eyes just lighting up there like Christmas tree bulbs. And when they were screaming at her, always in defense, she says, I told you, I know. She'd go like that kind of woman. And she'd say, come on, Fred, we're leaving right now. Oh, boy, that screech. I'm sorry, it still makes my teeth itch when I think about it. And, of course, the little kids, all of us, we're all hiding under the couch and under the daybed and everything. You're not used to adults screaming. But it's a Barbie's world. Don't worry about it. Oh, Barbie, by the way, comes with a sports car, this doll. Now, you remember when dolls used to come with little buggies, little baby cars? This Barbie comes with a sports car, and she has little pseudo bucket seats for a little bucket. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah. Don't you ladies know that that's what a bucket seat means? What do you think? That's not named after buckets. Don't you know what a bucket seat means? It's an old sports car slang word, and if I told you what it really meant, you'd be very embarrassed, and the Ford company would stop using it in their ads immediately. I'm always intrigued by people who continually misuse slang. They don't even know. I'll never forget one time when I'm in the Army. I came all the way home, like the only time I had a 3-day pass. I'd been in the Army 2 years. And somehow, by a stroke of unbelievable luck, I came home for 3 days. Well, I only was home for about a day, actually. It took a day to go and a day to come, and I was home 1 day. And it's hard to tell people about that kind of thing, because when you come back from something, you're completely out of contact with people. You form your own life, and you come back, and the life that people are living all around you, your friends, your relatives, and so on, has no relation. It's like in a dream. I wonder how traveling salesmen live. I'll bet they make no contact at all with their families, in spite of the fact their family thinks that they do. A guy who lives completely on the road, he can't possibly have any involvement with the people at home. He just can't. And if he does have an involvement, it's one of those hypothetical involvements. It's like a girl who's in love with love and reads love stories. And then she believes that she's a loving person because she does all these things. Can't stand men, but she's a very loving person, I came home, and there was this lovely little China doll-type girl that I had been going with. Well, no, it wasn't Dorothy. It was another one. By that time, Dorothy had already given me the mitten. This was another one. I was already down in the second string. I was working my way through the second string backfield by now in the team of girls that I had before I went into the Army. Of course, one by one, they fell by the wayside. And by the time I came back, I was already working on the defensive team. So I'm out with this girl, and we're in the Black Hawk. I'm really spending my dough. I mean, I've saved all my money for the last 3 months, and I'm really shooting the works. And I'm in the Black Hawk, and this girl is sitting across from me. And we have ordered some very esoteric, wild, rotten drink. You know, the kind of drink that unknowing kids order when they go to a real fancy place and it comes with rum and little flags on it and little Brazilian warships floating across it and it has purple ice in it. You know, the kind of thing, and it comes in a long, thin glass with handles on the side and all that, and it steams when they bring it. You know the thing, and they frosted the bottom and the top is hot. You know, it's all very fancy. It takes them 2.5 hours to make it, that kind of drink. And they say 1 to a customer only, that sort of thing. And it's mostly knee-high orange. So, very fancy drink, and we're both sitting in with these drinks. And they're on the stage there. They have this little floor show, and I'm really swinging. Oh boy, I'm sitting there in my uniform, and I'm feeling great. I'm home and all, and all of a sudden, out of the mouth of this China creature came a gigantic GI expression. She caught it really on the fat part of the bat, belted it all the way out to left center field, loud. I mean, they have 8 tables around, and she just says it right out. Well, I said, what? She says, well, it sure is a clunkety-clunk-clunk, isn't it? I said, yes, now that you mention it. Yes. Well, of course, right then and there, since she used such an expression, my hopes began to rise. I expected all kinds of just completely unpredicted success, you know. And, well, little did I realize that like most civilians, she had no idea what the expression meant. She thought it meant something like, oh, darn it, you know, something of that nature, or oh, heck. Wow, this expression not only had fins on it, this expression had treble hooks hanging all over it, you see, and had a little buzzing motor in the back. Oh, it was a very nasty expression. So she just brings it right out and belts it. Well, I don't know whether the Ford company knows what bucket seats stand for. Well, we have here WOR, speaking of the incomprehending. And we'll be here until it's in New York, of course. Where else? Of course, for heaven's sakes. And it's the only place to be. I mean, I'm awfully sorry if you're up there in Connecticut or if you're living out there in Pennsylvania, but after all, some guys are lucky, other guys are you. We'll be here until midnight, right here in New York. We've made it. Yes, sir. And nothing like New York. You know, speaking of fun and games, as long as it's a Barbie world, today I did something, and I'll have to. This is a New York thing. I don't think it has much to do with the rest of the world, but I'm going to have to explain something to those of you who live out of town who perhaps don't know about this, and to those of you in town who haven't run into it. I went to my first World Series game today. Now, I'm not going to talk about baseball, so don't get all excited, lady. I went to my first World Series game. Now, I have been following baseball ever since I was about 2 years old. And I played baseball, and it's a real important part of my life. Just as like some guys get into fly tying, and other guys collect stamps, other guys have barbecue pits. Well, I watch third baseman. So, you know, I mean, it's harmless, and I enjoy it. So that's the way it is, and it's a part of my life. And I have never yet gone to a World Series game. How come? Well, World Series games have a strange aura about them, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. World Series games are things that everybody believes you can never get tickets to. So you don't go. You know what I mean, Ed? It's just one of those things you assume that a lot of official people have got the tickets. Well, by George, I, by a very strange fluke, got a hold of a World Series ticket today. And I was all excited. So I get on the subway, and I'm going up to Yankee Stadium, and the people are getting on. But I noticed, the first thing I noticed was that there wasn't a crowd on the subway. Now, that really gassed me. There was not a crowd, and I was going up there. It was about 12:30, 12:15 it was, roughly. The game started at 1. There was not a crowd on the subway. Now, I've gone to probably 45 ball games here in New York City this year, and I know the habits of the ball-going people. That about an hour or so before the game, you can't get in the A train. You just can't. The D train, excuse me. The D train is loaded. They're like cordwood in there. And, of course, it is. They're just piled up. Sometimes it gets so wild that they have to pile them up horizontally. In there. They just load them right up to the ceiling. They're laying in their flat. And when they arrive, they just sort of, well, I'll tell you how they arrive. It's like if you took an aerosol bomb and you threw it in a fire. That's the way they explode when they hit that Yankee Stadium stop way up there, up in the Bronx. And they go just pouring out, just sort of blubbles out. Well, I'm in there, and I thought, well, for crying out loud, what is it? And I look at my watch. It's now 12:15, and I get a seat in the subway at Columbus Circle. Who would ever expect that on the day of a big ball game? Well, I didn't realize that I was not going to a ball game at all. Now, don't say, well, it was because they called it. No one knew that they called it. In fact, they did not call the game till around 2 o'clock or so, if you know what happened today. A World Series game, if it's raining, you don't stay home. If you've got a $25 ticket in your pocket, you go. So I get up there, and I get out of the subway, and I'm walking. There's a lot of very serious-looking people walking along very sedately. Now, I'll tell you another thing. When you go to a ball game, when they unload out of that D train, there is nobody walks. If you walk, I'll tell you, you've got nothing but track shoe marks all up and down the back of your neck. If you walk, you just don't make it. That's all. And I'm acting like a baseball fan. You know, I'm darting in there like a beaver, and everybody's looking at me and saying, "What is this slob doing up here?" I mean, I felt like a real slob. And on top of that, I am wearing a jacket. You know, I'm going to the ball game. I'm wearing a jacket. I got a shirt, a jacket. I'm wearing these old shoes and everything, and a chino pants. And I'm looking around. I thought, for crying out loud, I kept looking at my watch. Did I get off at the right stop? And sure enough, there were those big old reassuring signs at Yankee Stadium that way. And right up there, up through the thing there. Well, I get up above ground, and here's what was happening above ground. It's the day of the World Series. Get this, the 5th game of the series, and the Yankees are playing. And there is a gigantic crowd of people above ground, but they are moving at a very leisurely pace. Not only are they moving at a leisurely pace, but they seem to be totally uninvolved with the stadium or the ballpark. Really, it was as though I suddenly found myself at lunchtime in a slight rain on 5th Avenue in the 40s. Yes. And I get inside the ballpark. Now, I want to describe to you what went on inside. This is, I think, is a sociological phenomenon that has never yet been pointed out on the sport pages as to why ball teams suddenly behave very nuttily when they get in the World Series. Nothing goes according to the way it should go. Have you noticed that? Chuck Hiller hits a home run. This guy is a feather duster. I'm sorry, he is not a home run hitter at all. He belts one out of the park. Why not? Well, because everything is nutty in the World Series. And I'll tell you why. I get in this ballpark, and I finally find my seat, and I find that for the first thing, I notice everybody is standing up. Nobody is sitting down. It is now 1:45. Now, I'm talking about even the guys that were in the stands, you know, where there's no rain coming down. The rain only came down out in the bleachers maybe, or down. It was a very slight, straight kind of drizzle. It wasn't a driving rain. And the rain, sure, it chased the people out of the boxes, but nobody was sitting anyway. They were all standing up in the back. And it looked kind of familiar. I couldn't figure out what it was, but it looked familiar, but it did not look like a ballpark. Not at all. The whole atmosphere of this baseball park, which I know very well, since I'm an old Yankee Stadium habitué, was a completely foreign thing. Now, I'll tell you, it got more and more strange, and I finally found my way to my seat, and I sat down, and I'm looking around. Now, the first thing that you notice is that there are no vendors out there on a World Series game. You know how the vendors go up and down? Hello, hot dog here, beer here, red cold, ice cold beer. And they're always standing in front of you and bumping you and asking you to pass the change down and all that stuff. You know those guys. Well, there isn't a single one out there. And all they have are the regular stands that are the little hot dog stands and the places where you buy coffee are going. But now this is where we're getting down to the meat of it all. It's the people that go to World Series games. Now, this is a very special crowd, and I found out what it is. It's the same crowd that goes to musicals. On Broadway, of course. This is not an off-Broadway crowd at all. It's an on-Broadway crowd, and they are the function fans. These are people who go to functions. They go to any big function that it's expensive to get in. They go. These are the people who, if they hear there's a big show going on, like Anthony Newley, they'll all go to see that now. Every Richard Rodgers thing, they're there the first week. Now, it isn't that they're not the ones that are interested in the show, because if they were interested in the show, you know, they'd just as soon go the 10th or the 100th week. But they don't. They have to be there the first week. These are function goers. These are the people who are all going to crowd like mad down to the Lincoln Center for about the first 6 months. After that, when it starts getting footprints on the ceiling, and guys have spit tobacco juice in the corners and stuff, they will stop going, I'm sure, because it's no longer a function. These are function goers. These are first weekers at the theater. And if not first nighters, they're first weekers. These are the people who go to one football game a year. It's the Army-Navy game. That's right. They go to any big function that is. Now, who are these people? They're a very interesting crew. I'm sitting down there, and first of all, they know nothing about any of the functions they attend. All they know is that it's a big thing, and it's very exciting, Charles. They're all out there. Yes, it's that kind of thing, And they make the most insane comments about what's going on. And what they say has nothing to do with what's going on. That's where the insanity comes. And so the feeling of a ballpark is a feeling of a big musical. This is in the World Series, at about the third or fourth night. Now, this is the first time I've ever seen this. Everybody at the ballpark is looking at everybody else. And they're all running around table hopping. I have never seen table hopping in a ball. Charles, for crying. Chuck, there is Charlie. Oh, for crying out loud. Charlie, what section are you in, Charles? Oh, 7? Oh, well, I'm sorry, actually. I would like, for heaven's sake, let's go back and get a hot dog. They're table hopping. I have never seen table hopping at a ballpark. And not only that, they're section hopping. Section hopping, like a guy will spot a friend of his in section 12, and he's in section 7. So they're hollering back and forth, and they're all wearing camel hair coats, and they're wearing these London fog raincoats, all very chic, I'll tell you. And they're standing up in the back. Now, why were they standing in the back? Well, have you ever gone to a Broadway musical? Well, nobody goes into his seat right away. You all stand in the back, back of that little velvet thing, and you sort of stand around in the back there, and you have a smoke, and you talk about Fred, and you discuss whether or not this is going to be very exciting. Did you see what Kerr said about this? For heaven's sakes, I'll tell you, I think Rogers is actually getting better all the time. A lot of people have certainly enjoyed Oklahoma, but actually my favorite one was Allegro. I believe that this was never really properly appreciated. And so it's that same crew, and they're all standing in the back. And they're all lined up back there. Now, and you could see that the hot dog guys were totally baffled. Because this is a non-hot dog eating crowd. I might as well point that out to you right away. This is a crowd that if they had a little friendly on-team bar with Mabel Mercer performing in it, they'd have been there. Well, of course, these guys with the white coats ain't exactly Mabel. And I get into the line. I walk over, I'm going to get myself a Coke and a hot dog. And the man, there's a guy standing right ahead of me. He says, I'll have 3. And the guy says, 3 what, Mac? He said, 3 frankfurters. You mean dogs? Yes, 3 frankfurters, please. And the guy's, he's knocking them together. He's 75 cents, Mac. And in the meantime, this guy has started to talk with, I was talking to Ruthie the other day. It's 75 cents, Mac. And they're very shocked. They don't do that at Toots Shores, They don't yell at you like that. You just sort of throw the money on the counter and walk away, and it was very strange. Well, then I began to really look at the people. And I never saw such a collection of people. I suspect that all of these people are Sports Illustrated readers. Sports Illustrated is not printed for sports fans. It's printed for people who actually hate sports, but love to read about what Phil Rizzuto. Phil Rizzuto has a wonderful recipe for a Dutch rarebit. Have you ever had a Dutch rarebit? Actually, Phil, makes a good one. And there was a wonderful article in Sports Illustrated last week of the ties, the sort of ties that Sonny Liston wears. Sonny, has an excellent taste in ties, and a beautiful article called Sonny Liston Talks Ties. Not only does Sonny, have a good left jab, but he sports a superb foulard. It's that kind of an audience. Well, they're walking around, and I begin to see too among the audience a very interesting crowd, the kind of crowd that would put down and do put down baseball at any other time of the year. If you ever met one of these girls at a cocktail party and said, "I'm going to the ball game today, baby," she said, "The ball game? What do you mean?" I'll say, the polo. Oh, she says, "Oh, the polo, the Mets, the baseball." Well, I never go to ball games, actually. It's that kind of crew. And they're all there. Tall, thin model types. You know, the kind who look like Russian wolfhounds? And they're all walking around wearing those tall, thin hats and bouffant hairdos. And it was great. You know, they're all walking around. They're very thin people. And they're all with these sort of beefy-looking, red-faced guys with crew cuts. You know, the kind of guys that were born holding a Diners Club card in their hand. You know that crowd? That kind of the you know, 5 quick scotches just gets them started. You know, Chucky, oh Chucky, hey Chuck, you know that kind. Dartmouth, and there were 3 of them sitting back of me, and it was. I'll give you exactly what the conversation went. He said, you know, I went back to school last week. He said, you know, Wayne is playing left half this year. And they're going on, and it's the most weird thing. I've never heard anything like it at the ballpark. And then there is another kind of crowd that shows up at these games, another group, which never, of course, has anything to do with baseball. These are the very wealthy tycoons who arrive under convoy. Yes, they're convoyed by a large group of their very important customers who come from out of town, and these silvery-haired gentlemen smoking 75-cent cigars are sort of convoyed down to their box. Their company has a box. Now, their company uses it when an out-of-town buyer from Cleveland comes. They send them to the ballpark, get rid of the clown at least for one day. And they send him out to the ballpark, and they don't go near the ballpark themselves all year round. So now the guy has flown in from Las Vegas, the big customer, and Mr. Bullard is down there, and he wants to, of course, this is the big thing, to sit right there back of third base, right there next to the dugout in your box with the little sign that says the C.G. Bullard Company, Inc. And he comes down there, and of course they're dusting the road as he moves. You ought to see the attendants there. The attendants are running ahead of him, you know, and sprinkling little rose petals, and they're shooing the customers, the guys with the mustard all over. They get out of the way, please, Mr. Bullard's coming through. And Bullard is sort of sailing down, you can trailing this purple cigar smoke behind him, and he knows nothing whatsoever about baseball. They will leave at the end of the 4th inning, the whole crew. And the reason they will leave, you see, is because it makes getting back through the traffic a lot easier, Chuck. You know, he's a self-made man. He doesn't go to ball games. He goes to ball games, but doesn't go to ball games. You know what I mean? Very different thing. So here is this crowd out there. Well, they were offended. They were very much offended because the game didn't go on. That thing that they do out there in that field didn't happen. And it would be as if everyone had assembled, you know, the opening night, and Mary Martin doesn't show. And Richard Rogers phones in and says, I'm sick of the whole business. I'm not going to go on, you know, the showbiz. I got it out of my blood. Tell them to cancel it tonight. And everyone's sitting there. Of course, they'd be very offended at this. And this is the way they felt about that rain. Now, it was an offense because it doesn't really rain in the Alvin. Never seen it rain here. Well, the most significant thing of all was that they have music. Now, I don't know whether you know anything about baseball music, that tripe they play over the loudspeakers. Well, they're always playing music on the PA system. And first of all, they go, and it goes on. Very good. And it's loud, and it just goes. Then once in a while, they believe it or not, they'll play rock and roll. That's for the daily news readers that come out there. And then occasionally, if you go to the Mets, once in a while, believe it or not, you see the Mets really are the beat team in New York. That's really attracts. It attracts the New York Post readers, the Pfeiffer readers, the angry people, the UN fans, the demonstrators. They're all out there, you see. And so they play a slightly different kind of music. They'll play once in a while. They'll throw an Oscar Brand in there. That's kind of nice. But today I'm sitting there. I never heard anything like it. The band, I thought there was something strange going on. You don't really notice the music. And then I started to listen to it. They had a live band out there. And what do you think the live band is doing? Guess what they'd be playing for a group like that? Of course, show tunes. And what made it even more intriguing, I don't know whether you know much about Yankee Stadium, they were playing a medley from Kismet. They're playing Kismet. And that made it it was home for all of those people. And I suspect, really, I don't think it would have shocked any of those people to see Ethel Merman play first base out there. I rather think they'd like it a little better if she did. And to those people, you've got to understand, the various ball players are stars. They're not ball players. Mickey Mantle is a star. He's a star just like Gwen Verdun. He's a star like Alfred Drake is a star. He's a star. Yes, he's in the very same thing. And that's the way they treat them, in those sports magazines, like Sports Illustrated. They're stars. Willie Mays is a colorful star. He's a colorful star. Mickey Mantle's another type. And Willie, they keep saying the same tripe about Willie. He's just a say-hey kid. Hey, say hey, Willie, will you please, for Madge here, please say hey for her, will you? I've been telling her about how you're the say hey kid. I read about it in Sports Illustrated. You say hey, Willie. Willie looks up and says, oh, come on, man, will you get off my back? Wonder if they knew that half of the team chews tobacco. That's... it's a very interesting thing. And then another thing, too, was going back in the back there and watching the telephone booths back there. I never saw those phone booths. They have a lot of little phone booths back there in the Yankee Stadium. Well, the phone booths were filled with anxious-looking gentlemen calling their service. I don't know what I'm just going to have to get up for about 5 minutes, Fred. I'm going to have to call my service, and they're all back there in the phone booth making frantic calls to their office. You don't see this among ball fans, just not the way baseball fans are. And I don't know what might have happened had the ball game gotten underway. Now, you see, people who are playing a game, now this is a serious game to guys that are playing it, they play under certain conditions that they know. For example, if a theater person performs, he's used to performing in a theater. There is a certain atmosphere about the theater. He knows about that. Well, I'm not so sure that it would be very easy for Gielgud, let's say, to perform, let's take Hamlet, to perform Hamlet at the St. Nick's Arena on Friday night with the fight fans there. It would be very tough. It really would. And he could say, the question is to be or not to be. And for crying out loud, will you get this guy off? Bring on the main event. Who is that knucklehead Patsy? And they'd be yelling. Well, now, it's just exactly in reverse. So here you've got ball players that are used to scratching. Now, these ball players scratch and they spit and they holler. And they do, they're ball players. They really are ball players. They say very uncouth things at times, and they act in a very uncouth way. And the entire atmosphere of New York Stadium, the Yankee Stadium today, was roughly that of the Alvin Theater on the third night of a very successful musical. It really was. Now, that makes a guy itch. When he's playing left field, and he gets out there and he's used to a certain kind of sound from the stands. He's used to it, Really, it's his atmosphere. He's used to this. Well, when you hear a muffled roar of Westchester accents, it's just it must make you feel very, very. Now, on the other hand, some guys rise to that. Now, obviously, Hiller, this is Hiller's crowd. It certainly ain't Willie Mays' crowd. Willie has not exactly been burning up the paths. And so it's not Willie's real crowd. On the other hand, it might be Whitey Ford's crowd. I suspect Whitey Ford is more of a Westchester type. In fact, I believe that the whole Yankee team is. Really, and I think this has something to do with the Yankees always winning the pennant. It's a little in and out. Well, I'm watching this series today, this ball game, and I'm going to go back tomorrow. I will not burden you with any more reports on this, but I suspect. Now, I've been to other big events. I one time went to a big Navy football game. Now, I don't go to this kind of thing because you don't feel like you're there. Oh, the thing that I think is the most significant thing of all is that none of the ball fans could get in. They just ain't there. Baseball fans, first of all, are not. It's an offense to a ball player or a ball fan. It really is offensive to shell out like, say, $12 for a seat way out in the left field foul line, someplace back in section 4,228, you're somewhere just this side of Flushing Meadows. And this is the kind of stuff that the guy, he'll take on a big Sunday doubleheader when he can't get anything else and pay $1.10 or something for it. And when he wants to sit in a real good seat, he'll buy a reserve seat for $2.50 back at third base. Maybe he'll even pop for a box for $3.50. But for crying out loud, you don't even get inside the ballpark here for less than $8 now. Well, it's offensive to a ball fan. Yet those other people think it's only right. They wouldn't go if it was $2.50. See, they're function goers. They have to pay the piper or else it doesn't count. Now, who would go to see a musical if it was 75 cents? Seriously, you wouldn't go across the street to see Mary Martin if it was 75 cents. These function goers, it's got to be expensive. Very expensive, because it doesn't really count unless it's expensive. Now, have you noticed that all the prices at Lincoln Center are higher than the prices used to be at any other places where they held the same kind of function? Oh, yeah, the prices are higher than they were at Carnegie. The prices are higher than they were at the Met. This is where a lot of hollering has been about. But they have to be. You wouldn't appreciate Lincoln Center unless they were. The function goers are not going to, who wants that? This is greasy kid stuff. $1.50 to get in. Can't be very good. But it's Willie Mays. Oh, come on, $1.50. Most of these people judge things by the price they pay for it. And I found out the reason why there wasn't a crowd on the subway. How do you think they came? How does that crowd go anywhere? That's right, cabbies. Those little old yellow and green cabbies. I suspect that a good function goer would take a cab all the way to Augusta, Maine. If they were playing the big game there, it's the rubber game of the series, actually. Say Augusta plays. But they were all out there, and I never saw anything like that. They were all leaving in cabs. You don't see more than 3 or 4 cabs around Yankee Stadium on any given weekday. In the middle of a ball, ball fans are not cab goers, they don't take and I never saw such a collection of Cadillacs all lined up. All these big Cadillacs with the Z license plates. What is it? The 7Z plates, the big rented caddies. Oh yeah, they're all lined up there, chock-a-block as far as the eye could see. And I knew that I was at a genuine function. And I didn't like it. I really didn't. I had a feeling of being an intruder there. Yeah, first of all, I was wearing my jacket and stuff. I wanted to go up and grab one of these beefy sort of guys, with the scotch, exuding scotch and King's Men, the shaving lotion with confidence, with one of those tall, thin, wolfhound type chicks. Say, get out of here, will you? Get out of here. Go back where you belong. Go on back there to the 21 or whatever it is you hang around in, Playboy, whatever it is. Get out of here. I'm going to grab the guy. It's no use, They're all out there, and it's funny. I guess the World Series is kind of a New York ritual. The World Series doesn't belong to anybody else. You know that, don't you? And it's fascinating to me to watch how New Yorkers look at the World Series. They look at it the way they look at the Broadway stage. That's something that belongs to New York now. There's just no one like Gwen Verdon. Well, she's a New York phenomenon. She doesn't count for beans, I can assure you, in Cleveland. But she is a New York phenomenon, and that makes her the best in whatever it is. And so the Yankees are the best. Now, they're always a little offended, you see, when the other team wins the game. It's like the understudy murdering Mary Martin. This is just not done, Certainly not the way it was actually. I didn't come here to see the understudy. I came here to see Mary. That sort of thing. Well, it's intriguing. 2 guys are sitting in front of me, and of course this is reflected by the New York sports writers, who have already awarded the series to the Yankees, as you know. And when they always talk about the odds makers, well, who do you think these odds makers are? These are little Broadway touts up and down the doorways. It says the odds makers. Well, these guys haven't been west of Hackensack for crying out loud since they returned from that 4-year stretch at Atlanta. They just don't get out. So the odds makers are those little guys, and they too are Yankee oriented. Now, I have to point out to you some sad facts of the case. Do you know that the Giants have by far the better record? If you're interested, take a look at what the Giants did during their season in the won and lost column. You will find that the Yankees, with their record, would have been in 4th place in the National League. Are you aware of that? And I'm telling you, they were playing some Humpty Dumptys. The American League was a sad league this year, and the Yankees were the best of a sad lot. On the other hand, you had some wild ball clubs going for you in the National League. You had the Dodgers, who came in 2nd place, and their record was far better than the first, I'd say certainly than the Yankees, their record in the won and lost column. In fact, the 3rd place team, the Cincinnati Reds, had a better record than the Yankees. And yet, it is a belief, a folk belief, that the Yankees are better than the Giants. Well, I don't know in what direction they're better. They'll say man for man, actually. Well, you see, what they mean is that they don't know anything about them other guys. Seriously. Man for man, be careful. Willie Mays had a much better record last year than did Mickey Mantle. If you're going to let's go down the line. You want to compare the center fielders? You want to compare first basemen? And I'm not talking from a partisan standpoint here, because I have no axe to grind for the Giants, except that this is all part of a New York phenomenon. That they just assume that the Yankees are a better ball team. Actually, they are a New York team. They are the Yankees. And the Yankees, believe me, I remember the time the Yankees were beaten by Pittsburgh. Well, this was an offensive thing to the people of New York. So naturally, they had to fire the manager, they had to fire the general manager, everybody down the line. Couldn't be that the team wasn't as good as Pittsburgh. It just couldn't be, you know. It's impossible. And I'm sure that if the Giants wallop the Yankees, and I'm not saying they will, you can't make any prediction in a series, really, but if the Giants beat the Yankees, there will be some heads roll. Believe me. If not heads roll, there will be a lot of, I didn't actually have much faith in Houck. They'll start saying that sort of thing. They really will. And it's just the way New York is. And intriguing thing about New York fans, that they're fascinating crews. Why they boo, why they hate Roger Maris is a mystery to them. They can't even tell you this. Even the Yankee fans hate Maris, in spite of the fact that Maris has done more probably than any single ball player in the series. They still hate him. They love Mantle. And yet, I can remember 3 years ago when they hated Mantle. Did you know that Mantle was the Maris before Maris showed up on the scene? Mantle should thank his lucky stars that Roger Maris came into that ball. Oh, he was hated. I just remember 3 years ago when they used to say, "Boo, you bum!" And whenever you ask them why they boo Mantle, they would always say, "Well, because he ain't Joe DiMaggio." Well, I mean, I suppose to a Yankee fan that's a good reason enough to boo. Well, DiMaggio wasn't Babe Ruth either, you know. Babe Ruth wasn't Honus Wagner, and all the way on down the line. And so it goes. But a Yankee fan will always be a Yankee fan, and it's sad to see him squeezed out when his team is playing in the series. Those are not Yankee fans up there, you know. Those are function fans. Very different thing. I mean, they're going to go to a hit, no matter what kind of a hit it is. They're going to be the first on hand when the big A-bomb hits someplace. They'll be there in the ringside seats. They'll be there cheering. They fully expect to get the best seats in heaven. Absolutely. They've got it all sewed up. As a matter of fact, their broker is taking care of it. Good to see you, Chuck. How did you get away over there in Section 12?